Welcome everybody to the Startempire Wire Founders Podcast. My name is Various Smith, and today I'm with Justin Radeka, the CEO of 1IE. And 1IE is a nonprofit entrepreneurship organization for diverse, underrepresented, and underserved communities. And so Justin today is going to tell us a little bit more about 1IE. Take it away, Justin.
Oh, thank you, Various. It's a pleasure being here. 1IE was just a simple organization that really wants to put entrepreneurs first. We do this in 5 different areas. We do it through education. We do it through mentorship. And then we do it through community building. We have some community building programs that we're running right now. And then we, of course, are advocates, and we do some research around what we're doing. So we're very excited to be here, though.
Nice. It's good to have you on. I've been to one of the boot camps you guys did. It was in Redlands. Was it last year or something like that?
Yeah, last year we held it at University of Redlands.
University of Redlands. I'm just going to tell you guys, I know I need to go through the boot camp personally because the content is it is amazing. The content is amazing. It's packed with valuable information for startups. The SLAM process, that's what the name of it is, right? The SLAM process is something that every entrepreneur should know about. And I knew Justin actually a little bit before 1IE came about because we knew each other through some actual friends who kind of worked that I was doing some robotic classes. And we met up with Kimberly Davidson. I remember that. We went out to eat. So Justin, tell us a little bit about yourself as a person. Like who are you? And where did you grow up? What led you to the place where you wanted to start 1IE to this day? I know. Give us a little background. I know it may be a lot, but give us a little. Yeah.
Man, that's a lot. I don't know. I think I'm just a regular person in many aspects. I like outdoors. I like reading. I like, computer. I'm a little nerdy. I like computers. And of course I like business. I like startups. And I think, I don't know. I don't think I'm super special. I grew up here in Riverside. Nice. I'm a local boy. I was born and raised. And I did leave for a little while after college to go pursue career and life. And came back, and this is Inland Empire's home to me. And I think a lot of it is just about the people, about who we are. And I think there's a rich startup environment that's been here for a very long time. You can count days back to the 50s. McDonald's was started here.
This big.
And that's they're a decent sized company, and but it's been in the fabric of who we are. And I think that's kind of who I am. I'm part of 1IE, and I've got a little bit of experience elsewhere.
I love the way you mentioned, McDonald's, and there surprisingly are quite a few startups. What is it that people have this mindset that they have to go to Los Angeles? Nothing against Los Angeles. Or they gotta go.
We like them.
Yeah, or they gotta go to San Diego. Nothing against San Diego. Or they gotta go to San Francisco. What is it that we need in the Inland Empire? And what is it that costs you to come around to the place where you're like, I need to start 1IE? And how is it helping with the scene that fulfill that need?
That's interesting because, it touches on the very reason why we started this. So I started this with a guy named John Warner, and he's the one that developed the SLAM process. We can get into that a little later, but we were struggling in the region to find fundable startups. And what we meant by fundable is that they had traction, they were in revenue, they were moving forward. And we tried to figure out why that was, because knowing the region, we knew there were startups coming out of this region. There was a lot coming out of this region, but what we couldn't figure out is where were they, what were they doing, where were they going? And we thought and at least at the time, the prevailing thought was because there was no funding available. So if you look at the ones you just mentioned, Los Angeles, San Diego, even the Bay Area, of course, ton of funding, ton of investment, money going through that ecosystem. But what we did was we did some research and found out that actually wasn't the real problem that we were facing. We were facing people not knowing where to go and what to do. And I have an idea as an example, and I want to go start it. What do I do? People would say, well, you go get a business license, learn QuickBooks, and off to the races, right?
Yes.
And we found that was just not the right way to do it. So there's this concept, and this is where we come in. It's like what we missed was there's this 0 to 1 concept, right? What do you do with an idea, and how do you get it to MVP? How do you get your first customer? How do you get in your first dollar of revenue? And we found out there was nothing around that. No one was talking about that. Right. If you look at the startup organizations or the entrepreneurship organizations around the region, they were all mostly, I want to say mostly, there's a few that aren't, that were government, they're all government funded or government run entities saying, we're going to help you with entrepreneurship. We're the center of entrepreneurship. And what we found is they were teaching regular business, but they weren't teaching entrepreneurship, how to start a startup from 0 to 1, $0 to getting into revenue. So John and I decided, well, let's figure out how to do this, because this is the knowledge that people need. They don't need to know how to run a business with $150,000 marketing budget. They need to know how to start and where to go. What do I do? What's that knowledge look like? What are the steps involved in starting? And that led us to saying, well, let's just start an organization and figure out what that means to the community around us. And to be honest, we thought we were going to be more of a coalition at first, saying, well, there's all these players in the region that are working on startups. Why don't we just get them all together and say, hey guys, how do we help the 0 to 1 step? We ran into more resistance that way. They didn't want us to exist. I was told point blank by one of the directors of one of these organizations, no, don't start your startup. We don't need you in this region.
Wow.
We're handling it. Right. And that's a really strange thing to be told as a startup in the region. Right.
Yeah.
So we did it anyway. And, our goal now is to really start at the basic level of how do we teach people the mindset of wanting to start a business? Yeah. Let's start there. Let's start with the first step, right? How do we get people going, you know what? I have an idea. I think I'm going to start a business, rather than I have an idea. Nah, I got to go to work. I'm going to go work for, this job over here and go do this. Yeah. I'm okay.
Justin, I just love this. Okay. Let me just say, you hit so many points in what you said, because I think there is probably a coalition, not probably there. I know there is a coalition of like people who want to see this type of thing in our region, and then there's a coalition of people who may not be so interested, like the person who told you, we don't want you here in this region. And I've only been curious, kind of like in the mode of like, what does it take for a startup to become successful? How's this been modeled out? And when I hear you speak about the things that you speak about, when I went to you guys boot camp, all of the things that you talk about on how to scale a startup and begin a startup and scale it, and all the concepts you teach, the principles that are necessary, it gives me kind of an understanding that, okay, there is, this group of people who want this, who want to see more scalable, fundable startups that are here in the Inland Empire. At this point, it may not have caught on too much, because everything is like Chamber of Commerce, which no problem against Chamber of Commerce at all. Love the Chamber of Commerce, been member of the different Chambers of Commerce. But there's like this like small business mentality, I guess, and I see those as startups as well. I see all of those small businesses as startups as well. I guess what I'm saying is that the value that you guys bring is different from what's already here in the region. It's pretty, and it's amazing. So can you tell me, or tell the audience a little bit more about, maybe more in detail about what you guys are doing at your boot camps, and your ideas for the programs that you already got going, and maybe some boot camps this year as well. Sorry for the interruption. Yeah.
No, yeah. So it was simple for us is how do we teach these business ideas to a group of people that haven't been through business school, right? We didn't reinvent the wheel. What we did was made it easier and more palatable for people to understand. So what we teach is called the SLAM process. It stands for Startup Launch Assistance Map. It's a reimagined version of Lean Startup. So if you think, for all the business people out there, if you've ever used Business Model Canvas, if you've read Lean Startup from Ed Reese or Steve Blank, talks about it, but he's the one that sort of invented it. It's really just this reimagined process that allows you to go step by step in understanding how to start a business. And really, SLAM is a validation model. So how do you validate your business before you go spend tens of thousands or go take a loan out from a bank or do those things? It's really about how do I validate with this step-by-step process, and it makes you think through your business differently. So like in the boot camps, we teach people, we'll start with the pain. Start with what are you solving for? What is that problem you're solving for? And then you go to building a team that knows how to solve that pain. Now you can figure out the product you're actually doing, and then spending a ton of time doing customer discovery. So those are some of the details that we think are helpful before you get to, I'm going to build a website, I'm going to build a logo, and then I'm going to build it before, and just hope when I build it that they all come and,
right.
They love me forever, I make billions, whatever. Where we want to take a practical approach, and we want to teach it at the level where it's easily understandable. We don't have to have business concepts that are only for MBAs. This could be for any.
Yes.
And our boot camps are for that. Now, we do have more education than the boot camps. We have 500 plus hours of coursework.
Wow.
And it covers, we have 4 major areas that we cover. We cover mindset.
Okay.
Mindset is huge for us. What does that entrepreneurial mindset look like? And then we have SLAM, which is validate your business before you go any further.
Okay.
Then we have grand. Grand is executing on that validation. So that's the traditional business.
Okay.
What's your P&L look like? What are your resources? What are your supply chains? What's the money for your supply chain look like? Where's your investment strategy? Those things, right?
Yes.
And then at the very end, we have storytelling. And most people would call that pitching. How do you pitch to an investor?
Okay.
We think that's only part of it, though. It's not only how do you pitch to an investor, but how do you tell your story to your customers? How do you tell your story to your internal employees? How do you tell that story to potential investors or partners or strategic partners?
Yes.
It's really about understanding how to tell a story of what you're doing.
Okay.
Rather than, I'm going to pitch you, I need $5 million, and then everybody's going to be a billionaire by the end of the year, right? We don't want to do that. So all of our content is really about moving you towards revenue, getting that first dollar. But it takes a lot of work. It takes a ton of work, and the research, there's 10 years of research that have gone into this. This isn't just new. Lean Startup has been around for 20 years at least. And so knowing Lean Startup, you can actually, if you already know Lean Startup, you can actually adopt our SLAM model easily.
Nice.
It's just another way, an easier way to get to people. In fact, this is one of my favorite things to talk about, actually. I mean, I want to help all businesses and startups, and I love talking about business.
Yes.
But we're running an elementary program. So we have 4th graders learning SLAM.
That's awesome.
And
that's great.
They're getting it. And they're getting the mindset. They're saying, oh, I can go do this. I can go start a business.
Yeah.
In fact, we already have 2 that want to start businesses. They're 4th graders. They're 10-year-olds, right? 9, 10-year-old kids that are like, I want to start a business.
Yeah.
And when we look at the value of the content, it's not necessarily just because it's a startup entrepreneurship, which is cliche to say nowadays. But it's really about how do we help people fulfill a dream, and what's that dream look like? And here's the process to get to there.
The Inland Empire startup ecosystem industry is tremendously fragmented. A few top-tier hubs, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and San Diego, are well covered by media, events, and data platforms. Finding reliable information relevant to startups or the tech industry in the Inland Empire is extremely difficult. As a result, startups can't scale fast enough. Investors are having a hard time finding the right deals, and corporates can't find the right companies to partner with for their innovation activities. Startempire Wire, the leading Inland Empire startup publication, is providing the Inland Empire startup ecosystem with the most accurate, engaging business and financial data, events, and news. Our reach of entrepreneurs, C-level executives, angels, VC investors, startup employees, key management at innovative corporates, and big tech is the solution for your B2B or B2C needs. As we build out our platform, we're looking for partners. This is your opportunity to get in on the ground level. If you're looking to align yourself with the local and growing startup and tech ecosystem of the Inland Empire, we have created the platform to get your name noticed and the opportunity for you to grow the recognition of your brand. Contact us today for availability and pricing options. We look forward to our partnership with you. And I think that, when I first was exposed to the lean startup model, that it gave me a lot of courage to actually move forward, because you see the steps you need to do, you need to walk. And the SLAM model being so similar to it, I knew I recognized some of the steps you guys are using, but the way you present it is definitely different than lean startup, which is great, lean startup. And so teaching this to fourth graders, I can't even imagine. They're already, mostly uninhibited and imaginative. Like, I can imagine what they're doing. Like, have you guys seen these kids do some little ideas, have you seen as far as the results?
Yeah. Already, they're already looking at how they can make money. How they
That's
can
so
make their
cool.
own business. How can I go sell this? And then they'll say, well, I need to figure out my unmet need, and then I need to go do customer discovery. And it's fascinating because we're seeing that permeate not only just these kids that are taking this class, but it's permeating the teachers. It's the rest of the schools. The rest of the schools kind of getting on board, going, wait a minute. We could do this stuff too. Like,
that's so
everybody
cool.
could do this, right?
Yes.
We're doing it at the high school level as well.
Nice.
And those we already have in one of the classes. We actually teach a class in Dallas, Texas. One of the kids has already got a business running. Now he's trying to figure out how to scale it, and he's using our information to figure out how to scale it. Yeah,
that's awesome, man. That is so cool.
And that's what we want to see. And that's what we were talking about, sort of tie it back. That's the mindset we want to see throughout the region. I don't want to see, go get a business license, learn QuickBooks. I want to see, what's that unmet need? What's that problem you're solving?
Yes.
How do I go out there and solve that problem? I need some people around me to do this. And then I need to go interview people. And then we can execute. Then we know what we're delivering to our customers. We're delivering the right thing.
What you guys are doing is so necessary for our region. It really is, and I hope a lot of people see this interview. I hope a lot of people get exposed to what you're teaching others, because there's a skills gap, that is written about. I believe it was a Brookings report. They talk about the skills gap in the Inland Empire. And there is a lot of opportunity, except for we have a lot of like blue collar workers who they could take an idea and validate it and create a startup, because a lot of these people who are already in these blue collar position jobs, they have ambition to do more. They may just not have either the mentality, because sometimes there's that mindset of, okay, I live in the Inland Empire, which is crazy, And I sent a text message to one of my friends yesterday, because this is my mindset and my mentality. There are those who allow their city to make them, and there are those who make their city. So like you can either be what is that, a thermometer, or you could be a thermostat. And what you guys are doing is you're adjusting the temperature here in the Inland Empire with the boot camps, with the workshops. You're acting as a thermostat around here, and we need more thermostats, you know? So I love that.
You know, you hit on something very important to me, especially in the IE, you know, our Inland Empire, our home.
Yes.
The something like, it's just horrible statistics. 70% of the people in the Inland Empire make less than $38,000 a year.
Is that in the Brookings report, or is that in the Brookings report?
No, that's in the LA Economic Partnership.
Okay.
LA Economic Partnership report they did a couple years ago, and
yes,
the sad thing is that these people have 2-3 jobs, right? And if you ask the powers that be, well, we're manufacturing and logistics. I argue we're not. I argue we're startup, and it could be any startup. There's a lot of people that are pushing clean tech or high tech or deep tech, whatever the new tech term is. And the reality is, I'd rather see 1,000 CEOs than 1,000 warehouse workers.
Yeah, I love it. There's a different mindset that has a person has to take, but once they're introduced into that mindset, it's hard to see things the other way. Because I went to college, and the mindset everyone, you know, taught me at college was go be an employee, right. You know, and that's what they said. Go work for a graphic design firm, because I'm visual communications major. And like I went back later and I thought maybe I should have went for computer science, but I never had the ambition to just work a job. I always wanted to control my time more and have a little bit more freedom. But also I have a lot of desire to just help people in different ways. So anyway, I never fit into a job. And there's a lot of people, let me just say this. Whatever you got to do to make the ends meet, sometimes that's what you got to do.
Right.
But
right.
As an entrepreneur, you have potential and growth that you fulfill. As a person, you become more of a person by taking on the challenge of being a CEO, an entrepreneur. You actually grow into more of a person. That's my perspective of it. So I love you'd rather see 1,000 CEOs. I love that,
And you're right, though. I mean, I think this is the mentality that we need to permeate the region and say, you can be this. And if it takes skills, we'll teach you the skills. Basically that's what we do, right? We teach skills so that you can go off and start a business or start a side hustle. I mean, if that's what it is, start a side hustle and make a little extra money for your family. That's fantastic. You mentioned skills gap, and that's the Brookings report.
The Brookings report.
Yeah, we've actually mapped all of our content to skills, and we have, I think we've matched now 90 skills or something like that, 70 to 90 skills in each of the courses that we have that match you and give you better skill sets to go do things. Communication is just one of the things, but let's talk about those soft skills that we don't teach at formal education. And then we're not taught that until much later in life, that you just have to learn by doing. We want to teach those skills early on, and I love it. That's what our goal is really start looking at that skill set. What's it take to start a business? Let's match that up, and let's figure out how to make you start the side hustle.
So so you guys are saying you've matched those 90 skills to different types of businesses people can create? Is that what you guys have done?
Well, we matched it to our curriculum. So that each course you can know what these are the skill sets you're going to be learning. Are going to have to either master, or you're going to have to work on, or mindset is interesting, because in our mindset coursework we talk about growth and fixed mindset, and that came out of Stanford, a professor called Carol Dweck. She wrote a book called Mindset.
That's a great book.
Right. Yes. And so we look at growth versus fixed mindset. That's a hard skill to master, right? Growth being that I can go learn something new and go do.
Yeah.
Whereas the institution will tell you, no, you do this. This is what you're supposed to be doing.
And
we say
that,
no.
Yeah, and that's like that growth mindset. It's something that it's like a daily choice too, because it's like you can choose to be risk averse, or you could choose to be like, okay, I'm not going to take this risk today and pick up the phone and cold call somebody, which, a lot of people don't like cold calling, but it works. Cold calling works. But no, I love the fact that you guys have 90 skills. That's a lot. That's a lot of skills.
It is, and it takes a lot. I mean, it takes a lot to start. It's not easy. I'm not going to tell you the journey is going to be easy. It's a hard journey, and learning those skill sets is extremely difficult, right?
But having that growth mindset, they can do it. It's a can-do mindset, right? Yeah.
It is. It is. It's saying that I don't know that now, yet I will.
I love it.
I will know that.
I love it.
And that's what we want to see. And we want to see more of that around the region too. And wherever we can help, we try.
Okay, so speaking of growth, we mentioned growth. The next question segues into what is the growth of One IE? How has that, started from where it was to where it is today?
You know what?
And some growing pains.
Yeah, there still are. That's it. It started when John and I were talking about the region and how the startups are not where they're supposed to be, or where we want them to be. Not where they were where they were, but we were walking across a university campus and just having a conversation. So, what do we want to do? Do we really want to go just actually do this? And so, with $0 in the bank account, we said, okay, let's just go do this and figure it out. And it started with let's offer one boot camp, see how it goes. Let's just see if we get anybody to sign up. Maybe nobody will sign up. Maybe nobody cares, right?
Yes.
But you saw that room; it was packed.
I was there, man. That was so awesome.
And from that point, I think the growth was slow, methodical, and then COVID hit. And at that point, because we were doing in-person instruction, we were like, okay, let's refocus everything. Let's take a step back. But what it did is it gave us opportunity to go and create more curriculum, focus, start looking at how that growth path, what it looks like for us. And for us, it was, we want to do more education. In terms and not only the boot camp, which is the 2-day course, right? But let's do something shorter. Let's do a 4-hour course. Let's do then a 6-week, a 12-week course. What's that look like? And let's go build that and try to figure out then how we're going to move that into the market.
Yes.
And during COVID, right? We looked at online and we were like, okay, well, let's go online. And we're like, well, that's expensive. We're a startup. We don't have money. And it all came down to, let's go figure out where the need is and let's start there and what that looks like. So we ended up, and we had a second boot camp at Riverside City College District.
Okay.
Downtown. And when we were there, we had one of the principals for an elementary school here in Riverside show up and take our boot camp. Was that the one I came and did interviews at the cooking place? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yes. Yeah. One of them was a principal, and she said, I want to teach this to kids.
That's awesome.
And, there's us going, we want to start startups, but okay, let's try to figure this out. So we did. And then all of a sudden, that became more popular than our boot camps. We had parents that wanted to get involved. We had the school district that wanted to get involved.
Wow.
The superintendent was saying, hey, we want more of this. Let's figure this out.
Wow.
And so we started going down that path and said, okay, well, this is our path. It was sort of those little pivot things, right? And
that's pretty cool.
I would encourage everybody that's doing a business, look for those little pivots, look for those opportunities, right?
Yes.
And then focus there, because that's what we ended up doing. Now we have curriculum in 2 school districts, and we're looking to expand that. So in terms of growth, we're going to go down that path of what that looks like for school districts now, and where are those school districts that are similar to something in our region. And again, we're after the underserved and underrepresented. So we want those kids to say, I can go do this. I can learn all these skills, which would not only help you in the business world or career-wise, it'll help you going to college, right?
Absolutely.
These are skill sets that will help you everywhere. So,
or skip college altogether.
or start a business. We like it all. We like people going down the path of having the ability to
choice. Yes.
Right. And so for us, we're looking at going that way. And another opportunity came up where we were talking to a CEO of a bank, and they said, we want to do this. We want to look at what's that look like in terms of, can you teach SLAM inside of an organization? I said, absolutely. We actually have curriculum for entrepreneurs for a company that's already established.
Yes.
Right. So they're not looking to move and be nimble like a startup would. They're looking to affect change within their own organization and try to do something new, create new revenue lines, new product services. So we have an entire boot camp for entrepreneurship.
That's awesome.
And only because we had talked to someone that said, hey, can you do this? And we said, yeah, absolutely. Now we're pursuing that path of actually helping banks understand how to validate a business and using that in their small business loan department. So when somebody goes in for a small business loan, you can say, well, wait a minute, have you validated your business the right way? If you haven't, try taking a boot camp with 1IE, and 1IE will teach you how to validate that business. And then what that would do is de-risk the business for the bank.
Yeah, that's a power. That's a power partnership all the way around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are things people don't think about. The entrepreneurship one is, most people don't think, a large organization does not want to have more innovation, yet they do. They need it.
Right.
And then also the bank partnership that you guys, that's another amazing thing. I would not think about that off the top of my head. Entrepreneurs coming in, if they haven't validated, hey, go take this course first. Perfect part. That's a perfect marriage of information and, I should say acquisition of, skills and also money.
Yeah, exactly. And this is bank loans, right? So banks don't want to, spend money where they're not guaranteed something.
That's high risk.
It's extremely high risk, and what we're trying to do is lower the risk for banks in terms of what they're doing, and it ultimately helps the entrepreneur. It focuses them and helps them grow that business into a good revenue line. So that means they'll use that money, that loan from the bank, wisely.
So you guys did not expect to tap into these markets initially. That's so cool. That's actually cool. It's cool to have new markets open up without you even knowing that. That's really cool. So what about your growing pains? Tell us some growing pains.
Still today, Darius, man, we got to talk, because still today, the hardest thing is when you get stuff like this going, and it's fine because we have curriculum and we're there and we're teaching, and that model's working for us.
Yes.
And then you go to an organization that has zero talent for building websites, and we can't build a website to save our lives. You can go to our website, oneye.org, and you can see, it has information on it.
It's informational. It's not too bad, right?
No, it's not horrible. Look, no, it's not horrible. And it was built actually by someone in-house, and they actually did a good job. Yes. But we struggle because we can't modify it that well. It's not that fast. We don't. And we want to give more information.
Right.
So part of it is, how do you grow from that initial, what I would call like a landing page, to getting more? And mind you, it's not like we're rolling in millions of dollars, right? We are an organization, and our goal is to help people.
Yes.
And so we have to balance out where those resources are spent, and
Right.
we're spending them on entrepreneurs, not our own in-house,
Yeah.
systems.
We could chat about it later, a little off camera. We have startup packages.
Look, you're selling me on your own. I love it. Okay, so I got to help you to help me.
Yes.
Maybe we could do a fair trade.
Collaboration. Yeah, collaboration.
We'll work it out. But I mean, that's not the only thing. I think when it comes to startups, and really the point, while our website's fine and we struggle there in terms of we don't have enough money, that's really where that pain comes from. And I would tell every startup, you're going to go down this path. You may not, website may not be your gating factor in terms of where the pain's coming from, but it's going to be something like that in-house where you can't do something. I can't spend $100,000 on marketing. Why? I don't have $100,000, right? So you have to learn to pivot and maybe make a partnership with somebody, make a trade, barter, do what you can to move forward. And I think that's where we are almost every day, right? How do we get the services we need when you're not really healthy in cash?
Well, and I think those alliances that you can create, which is really what it is, you're creating business alliances as you're growing up as a startup. Those are valuable because it's not always a one-to-one, it's not always a one-to-one deal like, okay, you're a regular client. No, like there are different types of alliances and different types of like barter, trade, and so I think that's another part of the entrepreneurship hustle that people have to learn. I'm just going to be very candid and say that I know this because being a web developer, I've bartered for a lot of different things, because it's an important skill and a lot of people need it. And yet it's a little bit expensive too, of course. But at the same time, I would say that, having those alliances that you can lean on in the startup community is a great thing as well. And so here we have quite a few people, that I've talked to who are here in the Inland Empire, and all different types, but there's not a lot of, like we said earlier, there's not a lot of collaboration, and I want to help facilitate that through the podcast, through the website, and all of that. And I think that's a very noble goal.
It is. I mean, and we do the same thing. Look, I mean, our boot camps have a minimal fee for founders, but I'm willing to waive it if there's bartering going on. Yeah. Right. I'm willing to work with people because we're a startup. You're a startup. We're in your shoes. And while we're teaching a process, we're running that process ourselves. Right. And we're in the middle of it. We're in the forest or the weeds, whatever you want to call it. We're with you. And I think that if somebody wants to come to me and say, hey, I've got this skill set and I want to barter with you, great, let's talk about it, because I think that's how we're going to grow this region out of saying, oh, what I need $150,000 to start my business, or I need this in huge cash flow, or these resources that I just can't afford. Instead of doing that, we profess, go out there, figure out how to do it with the ones around you. And we have a lot in our own backyard here in the Inland Empire that can help everybody.
Okay, so I want to mention one thing, because I know you mentioned earlier a lot of government in this region. We have a lot of government help. We
do.
Universities and governments are really big, and as we've been tracking the grants and the all of the funding that's happening here in the Inland Empire. We track it on the website. We really report on it a lot. And, we're writing an article a day on the Startempire website. One of the things that I've noticed is that the entrepreneurs are not receiving the money as much as the government agencies and the universities are receiving it. And I know there are different types of grants and different reasons for that, So what do you think, if you have any insight into it, is a way to, and I believe you guys are probably part part of this solution is a way to attract that funding towards startups.
Yeah, that's interesting because we know we do the same thing. We track where the funding's going. We're fairly young, so as a nonprofit, we're not really trusted as much. But we do know a lot of money is coming from SBA, from the federal resources, state resources, and it is ended up in education institutions and formal education institutions and government municipalities, whether it be county or city. Interestingly enough, I've not seen it pass through to entrepreneurs in a meaningful way. I've seen it where they think they're being meaningful to help entrepreneurs, but really they're just spending money on basically the programs that they think are effective for entrepreneurship in the region. It's very high level though. It's not in the weeds. It's not 0 to 1. It's not, you know, and I'd like to see more of that. And I'd like to see more people actually looking at what that money does to affect change.
Okay.
You know, what are the results that we're actually after? The only judgment we have or result that we have, any barometer that we use is the business. Did the business go from 0 to revenue? Did they get there?
Yeah.
Right. Not did they go and pitch and did they win a competition or did they go and they secured some other funding from some place like an SBIR, or maybe they got a loan. That's not what we're after. We're after healthy businesses in revenue.
Yeah, right. And I've seen like recently there have been a few startups, well, very few, but actually one in Riverside Work Now just got 10 million, but it was from a group of investors in Newport Beach.
Right.
You know, and so I mean, so I'm not sure. I know the Tech Coast Angels, and I know some people with the Tech Coast Angels. I actually have an opportunity to speak with a few of them as well. I know they're involved in some way in this region, but finding those investors, I think that's the other aspect of knowing who are those investors in this region, you know, and who.
Agreed. And I still think we have the same problems. We don't have investable startups, right? I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And even at that, how many people are in revenue? What's that revenue look like? What's the cash flow look like? What's the growth look like? I'd argue that we have very few of those that are moving forward that way.
No traction.
I mean, I haven't seen it. That's the thing. I haven't seen it. I mean, I'd like to see more. I mean, there's 1 or 2 out there, maybe 3 or 4.
Okay.
But for the vast majority, there isn't traction. And we want to see that. I want to see not that you're just out there doing it, but out there actually selling at scale. Can you scale this from, you know, I mean, not to say that every business has to be that way. Don't get me wrong. We need food trucks. We need dry cleaners. We need coffee shops, restaurants, right?
Yeah, they're different. Those are different types of startups, in my opinion. But they're not typically the ones that get, you know, seed investment or angel funding or anything like that. They're not the scalable ones that, you know, like investors look at.
Correct. I mean, I want to help them all, but if we're talking specifically about scalability and what investment looks like in the region, then, you know, there's a whole bunch of people that tell you there's so much money being poured into the region, so many good things happening. But the thing is, where's the revenue? Where's the growth? What's it mean? You know, is it actually something that we can measure? Certainly you could do that out of the Bay Area, and certainly you could do that out of other regions that have a very strong startup scene. Nashville, Kansas City, they all do, right? But what we want to do is figure out what that looks like here, and and what type of companies are being invested in here. Are they just tech? Are they? Because I want to see, we have some 19 industries, maybe 16 to 19. I can't remember the number exactly. That all have billion-dollar companies, and they're in the region.
Right.
So we have billion-dollar companies in the region. They're not all tech. What's that look like? Does it have to be tech? No, it doesn't have to be tech. It's just got to be a company, a startup that did something big. You know, or grew to a large scale, and then they hire people. That's where you're getting, you know, if you want to get to the point where you're affecting jobs, well, let's create businesses where they actually hire people and
I
they're
love
not
it.
having to work 3-4 jobs in
Yeah.
the warehouse or logistics industry.
So that brings us to the current needs of your startup. So in order to get One IE to the place to where you can get that mass adoption of your platform, the mass adoption of your actual slam process, and how to get to market, how to scale. What are your current needs to start moving that needle forward? I know you mentioned a little bit of it, but what are some of the actual current needs of One IE?
You know, we look at this in many different ways. I mean, obviously, and what every startup is going to say is funding, right? But that's not,
Right.
that's not, I mean, of course, that's at the top of our list. It's at the top of everybody's list.
Everyone's
I don't
list,
think we
yeah.
even need it. Right. I don't think even I have mentioned it anymore. What we're looking at is where else can we affect change with our curriculum? We want to do more boot camps. We want to do more and get into places that we didn't even think of. I love the idea that we got into this K through 12 and we have K through 12 curriculum. I love that.
That's amazing.
Why? Because it wasn't something we didn't think about, right? Banks were another one. Who thought that we could actually help banks? And then,
Pretty cool.
But what's really needed from our perspective is how do we get into those communities that need us most?
Yes. Yeah.
You know, I could sit there and tell you I can go to, and no offense to Techo Tuesday, it's a great thing, but those aren't the people that we're targeting. Those people at Techo Tuesday aren't the ones from the communities that have to work 3-4 jobs and don't have time to start a business.
Some
right?
of them may be. I got some people
Some of the younger
I'm
ones,
inviting.
yeah.
Yeah, I got some people who I'm inviting. Absolutely, yeah. But I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
But let's look at the areas in Riverside and San Bernardino that are struggling, and let's figure out how to help those people. Right? Look at those communities.
Yeah,
you know, where mom and dad work 3-4 jobs because they have to put food on the table. Let's figure out how to get in there, and that's where, you know, as a nonprofit, this is really where we're trying to figure out how do we help them. Okay. And anybody that wants to help us help them, we're always open armed for like, how do we get in there and how do we teach them how to do this? You know, let's get them starting. You know, funny thing is, I love food trucks, and I'm like, well, what? Is there anybody out there that's thinking down that line that says, well, you know, I make food for holidays. Can I sell it then? Well, let's figure out how to do that. Let's teach you those skill sets to go from maybe your home kitchen to a cart to a food truck. Let's figure that out. Yeah. And get your family more money. That's really so
the people the people you guys are trying to meet to get into those areas would be probably people like who are really connected in those areas, right?
Yeah, I mean, let's look for those community leaders. Let's talk to them.
Yeah.
And let's figure out how to affect change that way.
Right. Yeah, that's big. I know you know, I haven't done a lot of coverage at this point on some of the areas of San Bernardino, because I do intend to do as much coverage as possible, because there are entrepreneurs, you know, at every socioeconomic level, and you know, I might live in a little bit of a nicer neighborhood, but it's not because I'm rich, you know. But at the same time, you know, like I you know, my people, you know, and where I've come from is very, you know, under I would say underrepresented, you know, basically black neighborhood, man. I'm a black dude.
What?
Hey, don't come. That's gonna be funny on the podcast anyway. But yeah, I right now volunteer with an organization called C3, and we do robotics training for code to, you know, underprivileged and underrepresented areas. You know, we go to the church, and so, like, have you ever thought about introducing this to some churches, you know, and saying,
absolutely,
hey, Sunday school, or some type of little boot camp you guys want to run, like maybe don't take over the main church service because you can't do that, but be like, you know, be like, hey, we want to offer this curriculum to every student who comes to your church, you know, because you got a lot of you know, young individuals who will really benefit off of that. I mean, if the church that I was going to growing up showed me something like this, I'd be so much further ahead. And I mean,
I think you're right, but I think it's not only just church, it's the community centers.
The community centers, yeah.
There's a ton of things. There's after school programs being run all over the region, and not
Right.
just the kids, but let's think about the parents too. How do we get the
That's
parents
true.
money, and not just San Bernardino? You know, we have the high desert, we have
High desert.
the Coachella Valley, and you know, and there's a lot of people in this region. There's 4.5 million of us. You know,
It's a big region. That's true. I only think of a
Right.
few spots because I like home gardens, and I probably said the church probably about 50 times. but that's because I'm from the South, and all the poor people are in the churches for sure. You know,
right.
that's
Right.
where we grow up at. You know, it's that was our community center. We didn't even have enough government money for that community center. You know, well, you
Exactly.
know, where I was at in Texas. You know, growing up. But anyway. So the high desert, I didn't realize that the population is 4.5 million out here. That's big. That's huge.
It's a huge, and think about the size of it. I mean, if you go from Temecula to Barstow, it's huge.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's who we are, right? And
Yes.
it's a large, wide open space, lots of people, and we want to make sure that they're all represented in this, not just like I said, not just high tech. Yeah, we want to help high tech. We'll help you if you have a high tech solution and you want to bring that to market. But you know, again, how do you get 1,000 CEOs? How do you get 2,000 CEOs? How do you get 10,000 CEOs in this region rather than 10,000 warehouse workers?
Yeah, I love it. So what other type of people are you seeking to meet to help, you know?
I mean, we're looking at schools,
Yeah.
every school district, obviously.
Okay.
And we want to say, look, we're here to, and to be honest, we're not running it in curriculum. We're running it as an after school program.
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah,
Curriculum could be a bit dry, you know?
Yeah, exactly. We'll let traditional education do their curriculum stuff, and we'll run this as an after school program, and hopefully, and what we saw last year, we saw the students' scores increase. We saw more engagement from the students. We saw parents get more involved in the school.
Yeah.
And the community then also got more involved. So at the culmination of the year, we hold a car show at Galleria at Tyler.
Nice.
And the kids in the fourth grade, they sell lemonade. You know, lemonades. They build a lemonade stand. They learn all about it, right?
That's the entrepreneurship right there. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so the kids last year, we had a car show and they sold their lemonade. There's 3 stands.
I love
three
it.
lemonade stands. Here's the best statistic. 3 hours, they made $1,000.
Come on, man. See, that's what I love about entrepreneurship. Once you learn it, and lemonade is a perfect scalable business for a kid.
For a kid, right?
Right.
It's absolutely perfect, and it taught them valuable lessons about how to do validation of their business idea, what that looks like, how to do customer discovery. We had kids that were out there interviewing people, their family and friends, not strangers.
Yeah.
And learning how to collect that data.
That's so cool.
It was, yeah, exactly. And we want to do this all across the Inland Empire. Have every kid have a lemonade stand.
Yes.
You know that we have the next group coming up. They're going to be so the 5th graders this year will be doing bracelets. They're going to make some bracelets.
Okay.
They're going to sell it at the car show alongside the lemonade stands.
That's so cool. So bracelets, lemonade. You know what we used to do when I was a kid? We used to do something called Cool Cups. It's a Southern thing. But it's just basically Kool-Aid inside of a little styrofoam cup. Yeah. And we would freeze it and we sell them for $0.25.
That's it.
That was it.
That's actually a really good idea.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic idea. And And from our perspective, the curriculum doesn't really lean towards any particular business. It just
Okay.
shows you the process by which to start it.
Okay.
So we love the idea of whatever the kids want to do, let's figure out let's teach them the process of validating that business idea with real customers.
I love it, man. So Justin, with the final remaining minutes, tell us about your immediate goals, right? Like current, next, to the end of this year, next 3-4 months,
Yeah, so we're looking at a couple things, various. We're looking at, obviously, we're going to be redoing our website and growing that. Well, we're adding resources. We're actually doing a research project, and we'll be starting that at the end of the year.
Okay.
We're going to look at the small business community in the Inland Empire and start doing real research around it. Start understanding where people are starting businesses, why they're starting certain businesses over others, and really getting a feel for why people want to get into their own business here in the Inland Empire. And then
I think there's some collaboration between you and I that needs to happen for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And we want, we're obviously open to all kinds of collaboration, and especially with you guys at Startempire Wire.
Startempire Wire, yeah.
Startempire Wire. And then the last thing is really our year-end goal is to get more people involved in helping their community out with entrepreneurs and startups. If you know of somebody that's starting a startup, the last thing you should be doing is saying, it's a crazy idea, you'll never do it. But try to figure out what that means and get them the right education to help them move forward.
Awesome. All right, so let's dream a little bit. Right. It is 3 years from now.
Yes.
And, where is one IE? Then hit 5 years, then 10 years.
Wow. Man, okay. Wow. Planning way out there, are we, Various?
Yeah.
So 3 years from now, we want to make sure that we're in a lot of school systems, a lot of after-school programs. We want to make sure that we're in the community as not only someone that's just teaching entrepreneurship, but really walking hand in hand with businesses and mentoring and growing with them. 5 years, I see us nationwide. I don't want to necessarily take this to large cities. We're looking at communities that look just like ours, right? So that Main Street American looking community. So we look at Tucson, Tulsa. If we were going to Texas, we'd be in someplace smaller, right? So New Braunfels, someplace. Yeah. And if we were going further east, which we want to do, we want to stick in these communities where we feel that we can affect the most change. 10 years out.
10 years.
And I don't know, Various. I mean, I like to think that we're not only nationwide, but we're permeating the mindset of a lot of people and really get them. We want to be those leaders in wanting to start a business. And we want to send people to the right place. If you want more education, it doesn't mean that you have to stick with us. We don't mind sending you to a university. Get your MBA and continue down that path. That's great for us. Go to SBA or SBDC and use their resources. We just want you to start. We want you to start at zero. And in 10 years, I'd like to think that we're that organization that's affected millions to start their own business.
I love it. All right, so tell us where people can find information about you personally and your startup on the internet.
Oh man, I'm on LinkedIn if you want it. I'm on Instagram, but I don't do well on Instagram, so it's not like I'm not a good influencer, I guess. I don't know.
Influencer, yeah.
I'm not that. But if you want to find me on Instagram, I am OneRadBiz, the number one rad and BIZ.
Okay.
On LinkedIn, Justin Radeka, you can just do a search. That's pretty straightforward. Awesome. And then you can find 1IE at oneiE.org.
Awesome.
And there you can find all of our social media from there. We're all over.
Cool. Do you currently have any promotions going on that you want to let people know about?
No.
Okay.
No.
No. Like, do you want them to enroll in some of your course currently, or?
I mean, we're gonna start posting boot camps. And again,
yes,
if you're in the bartering mind, you may be able to get into one of our boot camps for free.
Oh, sweet.
And then we are going to be branching out to doing a workshop around step 1 of SLAM, which is unmet need. And we'll be definitely talking about that in the next month, and we'll tell you dates and times coming up in the next month. But looking like our boot camps will kick into gear in December and then January onward, right?
And we'll likely
posting all that.
Yeah, we'll likely publish an article on Startempire Wire and make an announcement.
Nice. And
awesome.
We do have a special announcement, but we're not going to tell you till December.
Dang it!
I know. Man.
All right, awesome. All right, guys, thanks for joining us today on the Startempire Wire Founders Podcast. Thank you to Justin for joining us as well. Thank you, Justin. You guys go follow Justin, stalk him online, and send him some emails. And thanks, guys, for tuning in. Check back with us next time around on the Founders Podcast. Peace.